Hello and welcome back to Mr. Haas's math help videos. Today I want us to look at lesson 13, absolute values and ordering numbers. We're also going to talk a little bit about something called inequality. So I'm going to add that one here. Inequalities. And it's kind of like it's got this word equal in it. In means not in this case. So things are not equal. You may know these already as less than and greater than. We also know that that symbol means equal to. But in this case, these guys are both not equal. And so they're looking at not equal, unequal. To give you a reminder, if I had some inequalities, some examples, we know that 2 is less than 3. Well, this is the same thing as saying that 3 is greater than 2. You notice how I can flip this around? But you still have the same relationship. In this case, it's saying 3 is greater than 2. Here you're saying 2 is less than 3. It's just keeping this kind of 2 points, the two ends closest to the larger number. Okay? If we're talking about a number line, okay, here's our good old number line. There's our 0. Here's our 1, our 2, our 3, our 4, right? The numbers to the right, as they get bigger, these guys are greater or larger or bigger. Okay? As we go to the left, our numbers are getting smaller. They are getting lesser. Okay? Smaller numbers to the left, greater numbers to the right. Okay? So if I was to compare two numbers, all right, let's take a look at the number -1 and 1. Well, -1 is that way from the 1. So I would say that -1 is less than 1. I can also write that as 1 is greater than -1. Okay? So that's how we look at it. If we are going to compare, let's say, two negative numbers. So let's look at some numbers here on the negative side. If we have a number, well, I'm just going to take a crazy number like -23, okay? And we're going to be comparing it to -2. No, you might be tempted to say, well, 23 is a bigger number than 2, right, Mr. Haas? Well, that is true, except we've got these negative signs here, which means that these numbers, when you look at them from their relationship to that 0, that -23 is way farther. And remember, we're saying the further we go to the left, the smaller those numbers are, okay? So the way that this would be in terms of inequalities would be that our -2 is actually greater than -23. And of course, the other way of writing it is -23 is less than -2. Okay, and obviously, if you had any number that's positive over here, everything over this way is greater than that -23. In fact, all these numbers in between -23 and going this way, they're all greater. This is our greater here, right? Okay. So that's, numbers over this way obviously would be less. Okay. So if we were to take, let me get a new sheet of paper here, and try and put a bunch of these negative numbers in order. All right, so I'm going to go with a -15, a -13, a -18, and a -2. Okay, Well, it might help to put them in order, just, what we think smallest to largest. So we're going to be, well, that would be like this. All right, we see the 18. Well, the 2 we'd say is small. Nah, let's not even do that. Let's do it the right way. Let's look at it this way. On a number line, where do these numbers fall? Well, here's where our number 2 is, right? Because this is where our 0 is. And our minus 13, well, he'd be down here. And we'd get to our minus 15. And this would be where our minus 18 would be. Now, they're going to either ask you to do one of two things. They either want you to put them in order from least to greatest, or greatest to least. Now, greatest would obviously be the bigger number. The least would be the smaller number. And remember, as we go this way, the numbers get smaller. And as we go this way, the numbers get larger. Okay, or greater. All right. So if I was to put them in order from least to greatest, it would be just like this. Minus 18, minus 15, minus 13, and then our minus 2. If I was to write them from greatest to least, I would have minus 2, minus 13, minus 15, and minus 18. If I was to throw in a number like 1, well, it would be the greatest number of all of them. It would be the largest one. So I would have to change my order like this. The least to the greatest, here's our greatest number, good old number 1, because it's positive, it is further to the right. Remember, the larger numbers, the more you go to the right, the larger the numbers get. The further you go to the left, the smaller or lesser value. So we would have greatest would be number 1, and our least would still be number negative 18. Okay? Sound good? As an example, they may sometimes give you a situation. Like, let's say we had a basketball hoop. Okay? And so here's our backboard, and here's our hoop. Okay? All right, there's our basketball hoop. Here's our ground level. And our basketball hoop is 10 feet above ground. That would be a plus 10, wouldn't it? That would be the number that we would assign to the hoop. Standard basketball hoop has to be 10 feet above the ground. We also know that in order to keep that from falling over, we had to dig a hole and bury part of the pole. Well, in this case, we had to dig a hole that was 3 feet deep. Right? And we had to pour in some concrete. Well, and so that pole, the farthest point on that pole, would reach to minus 3 feet, or 3 feet below ground level. Okay, so this is minus 3 feet, and that would be a plus 10 feet. Okay, so you see how if we are using ground level as our 0, right? That's our 0. Then positive would be going up. It's kind of like a thermometer too. You could take a look at a thermometer and go, okay, well, wow. This would be where our 0 is here, right? And these would be the positive numbers going up, and these would be our negative numbers going down. Over here, -1, -2, -3. Here's our 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So that would be our positive and negative in a vertical line. Kind of like we have our number line here. Well, kind of turn it like that, and now you've got your number line that's going the other way. It's just a vertical way of thinking about it, okay? Sound good? All right. So, inequalities. A couple more examples real quick, and then I'll let you go. Inequalities, sometimes they're going to ask you and say who's got more money than who, or who's got more of something than somebody else. Well, I'm going to choose a couple of people here. And here's old Bobby. And here's Ralph. And here is Sarah. And here is Jenny. Okay. They each have a certain amount of money. Bobby, he likes to buy baseball cards. And Bobby, he's borrowed some money from his mom. He actually has borrowed $10 to go out and buy those baseball cards. So he would be in negative. He owes $10. Ralph mowed the lawn the other day, and he got $15. So he has, and that's a plus because he was given that. He has $15. Sarah, she did some babysitting, so she earned $20 for her babysitting time over the last couple of days over the weekend. So she has a plus 20. She has 20. That's in her pocket. That's, think about it again, kind of as our zero line, How much does it get you back to zero? Well, Bobby's going to have to go get $10 to come back. And good old Jenny here, well, she bought some online game, and it ended up costing her $25. So she has, my 2 is a little messed up here, sorry, $25. She owes 25. So whenever you see this negative sign, that's when you know that the person's going to owe it. It's kind of the negative. And when you see they have something, the plus sign, that means they're that much ahead. So if I was to put these on the number line here, I would have -5, -10, -15. And remember, we can put in any numbers we want in our number lines because, as long as we keep the distances consistent and equal, then we're in good shape. We can use any numbers we want. So, all right, so I'm just about got my number line here. Okay, so here's where Bobby would be. Bobby would be right in here. He would be at that -10, right? Ralph would be here. Good old Ralph has plus 15. Sarah, well, she's even better. She's got plus 20. So there's our Sarah. And Jenny, she's all the way down here. She owes 25. Hopefully she'll do some work around the house, or maybe she's got a job. She'll earn some money. All right. Well, that's, one last thing I want to show you. Very important. When we want to know the distance from whatever number it is we have to 0, we use something called the absolute value. And that is nothing more than the distance either to 0 or the distance between 2 points. Okay, so let's take a look at our situation up here with our positive and negative amounts of money. What is the absolute value between Ralph and 0? Well, that's 15, right? It's 15. So the absolute distance is 15. And we show that by putting these 2 lines outside alongside the number. When you see these numbers, these bars here, that means absolute value. When you get the absolute value of something, it can only be positive. Because we are talking about the distance, not about whether it's negative or positive, just the distance between either that 1 point to 0 or from 1 point to another point. Let's take a look at, and that was our Bobby. Let's talk Jenny. Oh my gosh, she's got a long ways to go. Here's Jenny. And our absolute value of minus 25 is going to be 25. Again, it has to be positive. Notice we lose that negative sign that's on the inside. If we looked at Sarah, her absolute value of 20 is going to equal 20. And then our Ralph, absolute value of 15. Oop, I did Bobby. He was supposed to be 10. My apologies. Bobby should have been 10. And he was a negative 10. But it becomes a positive 10 over here. Ralph was my 15. I'm sorry. And Ralph becomes positive 15 as well. So you notice these are all positive. These first two were negative to start off with. And here we had a couple of positives. Everything comes out positive. The only time you're going to end up with it is if there's a negative outside the box. So if I had a negative absolute value of 12, then that's going to end up being a negative 12. But that's getting when we've usually got equations or so, okay? Or if I had negative of a negative 7, then I'm going to end up with negative 7, okay? So that's a little bit on absolute values. We're talking the total distance between, okay? Talk to you later. Bye.